Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do a new video about designing for functionality. I go out of my way to first design the furniture for functionality and then go in and put in things that are beautiful or continuous grain, waterfall grain from the sides to the top. I want to go through some of the designs that I have in my CAD program, and there's voiceover on them, and then show you finished projects, finished client commissions that I've done, with the idea that I am first and foremost designing a piece of furniture for a client to be used, hopefully to be loved and to be admired. But first and foremost, it's a sideboard, it's holding china, it's a jewelry case, it's holding jewelry. It's a dining room table, and I want the client to be able to seat 6 or 8 or even 10 people. So in these CAD designs, I'm going to show how I go about putting this in the CAD program. With each design, again, that I show you in the CAD, I'll show you the finished product of how it was built, usually a couple of angles. I'm starting the design of a mahogany sideboard for a client to store fancy china. The way I'm going about this, and I happen to be using SketchUp, is with the client, we measured out all of the objects that they wanted to store, and I put them in colored boxes so that I could move these around and find the optimal way to store these, and also make sure that the client was happy with how they would be stored so that they didn't reach down to the bottom and reach up for things that they weren't going to use often. So you'll see here that in SketchUp, that I've marked the length, width, and depth of every one of the main sections. So salad plates, dinner plates, cups and saucers, large platters, essentials that they are going to want to store in here. And this is a mixture, as you'll see later in the plans, of a section with 2 doors and then a section with 3 drawers. This is going to be on a stand so that it's up in the air. In SketchUp, I can easily move these around and show the client either by screenshots or in a video call different ways of storing the objects in this china cabinet. Now that I have a rough idea of where these objects will be stored, I'm starting to do some very high level design. So I have started to design this section that'll be behind the 2 doors, and I'm pointing out the divider now that will be between the door section and the drawer section. All of this, again, is to make sure that what I design, hopefully as beautiful as possible, will also be primarily very functional for the client. Now I'm extending the top and bottom to encompass the drawer section. This is going to allow me to show the client what can be stored in the drawers. Now that I've figured out that the case will be fully functional and that the client will be able to store all of the china where they want it, I've started to work on making this a beautiful piece. So I've started layering in the sapele that I'm going to use for this. I've extended the height so that it sits high up on legs with a simple cross member. I've started to look at grain patterns, and I've spoken to the client about using a different type of mahogany on the doors and drawers. This may be mahogany from Africa or Honduras or even something like Babinga. But I've also layered the design into the actual room setting where the cabinet will sit. It's on a slight bump out, and I wanted to make sure that this would work well for the client in the room that they plan. This is another example of designing a beautiful piece of furniture, but ensuring that it is very functional for the client. You can see that this is a 7 foot long by about 42-inch wide table. But the key thing for the client was how many people could sit at the table. What I do in my CAD program is I mark out in different colors basic squares for a standard seat, which is usually about 20 inches wide in the front by 18 inches deep. And I mark different colors for seating of 4, seating of 6, and even seating of 8. This way, on a video call with the client, and as I'm designing it before I even show it to the client, I can make sure that all their options are available and the different seating arrangements can be fulfilled. In general, you want a minimum of 18 inches for each person. What you can see by doing this process is that the seats at the end have lots of space. If you're seating 8 people, the seats in the middle are comfortable, and there's a really good amount of space down the center for platters, tabletop runners, and things like that. So this really helps both myself and the client know that this is going to be a very functional design. Here's the finished piece when it was delivered to the client. Here's one last example of how I design not only for beauty, but also for functionality. This is a commission for a jewelry case on a stand, similar to many Kreenoff designs, that was built in maple, and the front is all bird's eye maple. The client had a large jewelry collection, and they wanted to ensure that the drawers, which were ended up being lined in felt, were high enough and wide enough to fit the jewelry collection, but also, as you'll see, that the insides of the doors could have hangers for long necklaces. So we designed this together. I also made sure that the lowest end of the case would not make the client kneel down, and that she could still reach the upper levels of the case. And here you'll see the hangers for the necklaces. She had 2 small jewelry boxes that would fit in the upper section, that open cavity that you see. And this worked out really well for her. Here are pictures of the case finished as they were delivered to the client. Thanks so much for watching the channel. Please like and subscribe and send any questions that you have.